What is Guidewire PolicyCenter, and what role does it play in the insurance lifecycle? Guidewire PolicyCenter is a comprehensive policy administration system used by insurance carriers to manage the entire policy lifecycle, from quoting and issuance to renewals and cancellations. It enables automation, reduces manual intervention, and ensures compliance with business rules. For a business analyst, PolicyCenter is central to understanding workflows, defining requirements, and mapping functionalities to business processes.
How does the PolicyCenter data model differ from BillingCenter or ClaimCenter? PolicyCenter focuses on policy transactions, including underwriting, risk assessment, and policy issuance. BillingCenter deals with premium payments, invoices, and collections. ClaimCenter manages claim handling and settlements. Each system shares core entities, like account or contact, but PolicyCenter uniquely maintains risk items, coverages, and policy lines.
What are key entities in PolicyCenter? Key entities include account, represents the customer or insured party; policy, core entity for managing insurance contracts; policy period, represents a specific term of the policy; coverage, details the risks covered; risk unit, identifies insured items like vehicles or properties. Understanding these entities is vital for BAs to map business requirements to the Guidewire data model. Explain the policy lifecycle in Guidewire PolicyCenter. The policy lifecycle follows these stages: submission, quoting, issuance, policy change, endorsement, renewal, cancellation, or reinstatement. Each stage triggers different workflows and rule sets which a business analyst must define during requirement gathering and configuration. What is the difference between a submission and a policy period in PolicyCenter? A submission is a request for a new policy quote, typically initiated by an agent or customer. A policy period represents a specific duration of a policy, for example, Jan to December 2025. Each policy period stores data about coverages, terms, and premiums. Submissions create the first policy period, while renewals or endorsements create subsequent ones. How do PolicyCenter integrations work with external systems? PolicyCenter integrates with external systems using SOAP and REST APIs for real-time data exchange, messaging, event messages, JMS, for asynchronous communication, Gosu plugins for custom logic execution, PCF and rules framework for data transformation and validation. As a BA, understanding integration touchpoints ensures seamless communication between PolicyCenter, BillingCenter, and third-party services. What is a product model in PolicyCenter? The product model defines the structure of an insurance product, including policy lines like auto, homeowners, coverages and coverage terms, availability and eligibility rules, pricing logic, and rating worksheets. A BA plays a key role in defining these configurations during product setup. How are policy transactions handled in PolicyCenter? PolicyCenter supports transactions such as submission, renewal, cancellation or reinstatement, policy change or endorsement. Each transaction modifies the policy period entity and follows workflow rules to ensure underwriting and business validations. What are job and workflow concepts in PolicyCenter? Job represents a business process like a submission or renewal. Workflow defines the steps, states, and transitions that a job follows. Workflows can be customized using Guidewire Studio to meet business needs. For instance, adding an extra underwriting approval step. Explain the concept of effective date and expiration date in PolicyCenter. In PolicyCenter, the effective date is when a policy or coverage becomes active, while the expiration date marks when it ends. Accurate date handling ensures proper rating, prorating, and policy versioning during changes, renewals, or cancellations. What is a policy line, and how does it differ from a coverage? A policy line represents a line of business, such as auto or property. A coverage is a specific protection offered under a policy line, such as collision or liability. Policy lines contain the rules, coverages, and forms relevant to that business type. How does Guidewire PolicyCenter handle versioning? Guidewire PolicyCenter handles versioning by creating a new policy period for every policy transaction, such as renewal, endorsement, or cancellation. Each version captures the state of the policy at a specific point in time. This enables insurers to maintain a complete history of policy changes and effective dates. Versioning supports auditability, compliance, and rollback capabilities. It ensures accurate tracking of coverage, premiums, and customer interactions across policy lifecycles. What are some common integrations a PolicyCenter BA should know? Rating engines, example, ISO, proprietary models. Document management systems, example, DocuSign, FileNet. Payment gateways, example, Billing Center. CRM or producer management systems. Understanding these integrations helps define API contracts, error handling, and data mapping. Explain the difference between PolicyCenter rules and workflows. Rules handle validations, calculations, and data logic using GoSu. Workflows manage process flows and user interactions. For example, a rule might check age eligibility, while a workflow might route the submission to underwriting for approval. What are the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst in a PolicyCenter project? Gathering business and functional requirements, conducting gap analysis between legacy and Guidewire systems, writing BRDs, FRDs, and user stories, coordinating with developers and QA teams, supporting UAT and end-user training. A BA acts as the bridge between business stakeholders and technical teams. How do you manage requirements for a multi-line PolicyCenter implementation? Managing multiple lines requires defining reusable product components, maintaining separate coverage hierarchies per line, ensuring consistent rating and underwriting rules, prioritizing release phases by line complexity, conducting thorough regression testing for shared entities. What are key performance optimization areas in PolicyCenter? Streamlining workflows, minimizing rule complexity, optimizing search queries and entity relationships, caching frequently used reference data, managing batch processing effectively. What is the difference between underwriting authority and underwriting approval? Underwriting authority defines what actions an underwriter can take, for example, binding limits. Underwriting approval is a process that routes submissions to higher authority for approval when outside of defined limits. This ensures compliance with organizational underwriting policies. How do you test policy transactions as a BA? Validate workflow transitions, check premium calculations and rating logic, verify document generation and policy outputs, test integration responses, API calls, perform regression testing for renewals and endorsements. Explain PolicyCenter's Role-Based Access Control, RBAC. PolicyCenter uses role-based permissions to control access. Roles, example, agent, underwriter, admin, Permissions define actions users can perform. As a BA, you define access needs and ensure compliance with security policies. What challenges do you face during a PolicyCenter implementation? Common challenges include complex business rules translation, integration dependency delays, data migration inconsistencies, managing stakeholder expectations, change management during UAT and go-live.
How do you ensure data migration quality in PolicyCenter projects? Create detailed data mapping documents. Validate source to target transformation rules. Perform reconciliation using SQL or reports. Conduct mock runs and compare sampled results. Involve business users in validation.
What is the difference between a coverage term and a coverage option? Coverage term is a variable value, such as limit or deductible. Coverage option is a choice between predefined coverages, example, basic versus premium package. Both affect rating and policy issuance logic. How do you manage configurations and customizations as a BA? Document all changes in configuration matrix. Classify as config, no code, or custom, with code. Review change requests with developers. Maintain traceability between requirements and configuration items. What metrics do you track to measure PolicyCenter success post-implementation? Policy processing time reduction, error rate in data entry, underwriting efficiency improvement, integration performance metrics, end-user satisfaction and adoption rates.